Ryan Longwell, who played for years with Brett Favre in Green Bay before going to Minnesota, and back Tyrell Sutton, a rookie out of Northwestern, to run it back. And away we go on this Sunday night from Charlotte. Juggled and picked up, and then out past the 20, and the rookie takes it out to the 31-yard line as we take a look at the Carolina offense.
Matt Moore, Oregon State.
D'Angelo Williams, Memphis.
Brad Hoover, Western Carolina.
Lil Playmaker, University of Utah.
Hussein Muhammad, Michigan State.
Jeff King, Virginia Tech.
Travell Wharton, South Carolina.
Mackenzie Bernardo, Bentley University.
Ryan Khalil, the University of Southern California.
Kedrick Benson, Ole Miss.
Jeff Schwartz, Oregon.
Two backup tackles because their two top guys are both on injured reserve. Jordan Gross and Jeff Otah, and they'll start on the ground on a good defensive play by Mediu Williams, the safety, coming up to make the tackle on D'Angelo Williams.
Well, I think they saw our opening on cameras. Safety blitz right off the bat, coming off the left side here. There we go, coming right up the left-hand side, and it's going to hit D'Angelo Williams right in the backfield. When you see that early on, that means you're going to have to start thinking about throwing the ball if you're the Carolina Panthers.
And Matt Moore stumbles on his way back and then hands the ball off. And this is Williams, who's very good after initial contact, taking it out to the 36. And let's take a look at that vaunted Minnesota D.
Ray Edwards, Cincinnati Woodward. Pat Williams, Wasman High School. Kevin Williams, Oklahoma State.
Jared Allen, Culinary Academy.
Chad Greenway, University of Iowa.
Jasper Brinkley, South Carolina.
Ben Lieber, Kansas State.
Antoine Winfield, The Ohio State University.
Tyrell Johnson, Arkansas State.
Mediu Williams, Maryland.
Cedric Griffin, the Great School of Texas.
And a lot of eyes on that rookie middle linebacker Brinkley, as on 3rd down and 6. The pass is too high, intended for Smith, covered by Antoine Winfield, who came back after missing a half dozen games last week with a foot injury, and it's a 3 and out for the Panthers.
Well, anytime you're talking about playing the Minnesota Vikings, you're going to have to deal with Jared Allen, and you see exactly how Carolina plans on doing it. Dante Rosario, the tight end, is going to help Travell Wharton over on that side.
Jason Baker to punt. Darius Renaud to run it back. High floating short kick. And there's contact up front, but nobody touched the football. And it is down at the 25-yard line, and now there is a flag. Referee tonight is Pete Morelli. And I think it might be on Dante Wesley of the Panthers.
Interference with the opportunity to make a fair catch. Number 20 of the kicking team, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
He said 20. I think he meant 21. It's Dante Wesley with the interference here.
Renaud coming up trying to make a play and just simply had to get out of the way of Wesley. You have to give the guy the opportunity to make the catch, and obviously Wesley had no idea where the ball was, and not the greatest of starts here for the Carolina Panthers.
Frampton was trying to help guide him into him as well. So here comes Favre, leading the Vikings to the line of scrimmage at the 42-yard line. Good field position for Minnesota's first possession, and they give the ball off to Adrian Peterson for a gain of 3. Here's the Minnesota offense.
Brett Favre, University of Southern Mississippi.
Adrian Peterson, Oklahoma.
Sidney Rice, South Carolina.
Bernard Berrien, Fresno State.
Satu Shanko, Morgan State Bears.
Jim Kleinsasser, North Dakota.
Brian McKinney, the U. Steve Hutchinson, Michigan.
John Sullivan, Notre Dame.
Anthony Herrera, the real UT.
Phil Loholt, Fountain, Colorado.
2nd down and 7, the real UT. At least as far as Herrera is concerned, is the University of Tennessee. And the pass goes to the outside, and that is caught by Jim Kleinsasser, who has spent his entire 11-year career with the Minnesota Vikings. So for Brett Favre, you know the story. He was going to retire, and would he play? Wouldn't he play? What was he going to do? Ride the tractor? And then he comes to camp after the preseason had already started. And of course, he's going to be the starter. There's no doubt about that. Plays a little bit in preseason and is having one of the best years of his 19-year career. This is Chester Taylor taking it to the 40-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and 3 as we take a look at the Panther defense.
Tyler Brayton, Colorado.
Hollis Thomas, Northern Illinois University.
Damian Lewis, University of Miami.
Julius Peppers, University of North Carolina.
Niall Diggs, The Ohio State.
John Beeson, you already know.
James Anderson, Virginia Tech.
Chris Gamble, The Ohio State.
Chris Harris, J. Fair High.
Charles Godfrey, the University of Iowa.
Richard Marshall, Fresno State.
You already know, as in Miami. And no room over the right side that time as Adrian Peterson runs in to you already know. John Beeson, the middle linebacker.
You already knew exactly what they were going to do here. Brett Favre, I tell you, when you're 40 years old, sometimes it's tough just to catch up with Adrian Peterson. To give him the handoff, has to really stretch it out. One of the things the Vikings got back to last week, though, was trying to pound that football in there and quit relying so much on Brett Favre to make all the plays.
Favre now out of the shotgun. 3rd down and 4. Rice moving to the inside. Brett under pressure, and they get him back at the 49-yard line. Everett Brown, a rookie, and they traded off. They traded their number 1 for San Francisco's number 2 to pick Brown in the 2nd round. The rookie out of Florida State with a sack of Favre.
Well, coming off the left side here is Everett Brown, and he's the young man that they so hoped would end up being the balance for Julius Peppers. They flipped Peppers to the other side that time and do come up with the pressure.
Chris Cluey to punt. Captain Munnerlyn, a rookie out of South Carolina, is back and lets it go, and it bounds into the end zone for a touchback. And the Panthers will take it at the 20 when we come back to Charlotte. No score. Carolina had a 3-and-out first possession. Now they start this drive from the 20-yard line after the touchback. Moore retreats and will swing a pass out to the left side. D'Angelo Williams will step out of bounds at the 23. With Delhomme hurt, Matt Moore wasn't drafted. Started his college career at UCLA, 2 years there, left, spent a year in junior college, didn't play there, went to Oregon State. Went to the Cowboys camp in 07. They cut him. Carolina picked him up. He wound up making 3 starts here for Delhomme at the end of the 07 season. Got hurt last year as you look at Delhomme. And with Delhomme now missing his 3rd straight game, here is Moore starting his 3rd straight game. His backup is A.J. Feely. And they give the ball to Williams, who breaks a tackle and takes it out to the 24-yard line for a gain of 1. It'll be 3rd and 6, and Ray Edwards, the defensive end, makes the stop.
Well, E.J. Henderson, the middle linebacker, is out, and Jasper Brinkley, number 54. The burden really now begins to fall on him, and he's going to have to make some plays. He stepped up, at least stopped the momentum there of D'Angelo Williams. But this defense has been known for so long for their ability to stop the run, and there are a lot of eyeballs on that young man right there to see if he can do E.J. Henderson's job.
On 3rd down and 6. Moore buying time, extending the play, and then throws incomplete. That's Tyrell Sutton, the rookie out of Northwestern, who returned the opening kickoff. And again, Carolina with a 3-and-out.
Well, and the storyline's already developing here. It's just a matter of whether or not Matt Moore can complete enough passes to get the Vikings to back off the running game a little bit. This is a team that's had 44 rushing touchdowns over the last couple of years. They would love to stay with that running game, but they can't until Matt Moore can prove he can throw the ball a little.
Baker's 2nd punt in the first 5.5 minutes of the game is a good one. Renaud backs up. Fields at the 26. And Darius brings it back out to the 39-yard line. 51-yard boot and a 14-yard return as the Vikings have it when we come back. Favre starts this drive from the 37-yard line with a play fake, and then he slips, directing traffic, trying to come back, and finally goes down to the 28-yard line. And that was James Anderson, who comes in for the trip. But Brett extending the play as long as he could, and then he finally falls victim to the turf.
Maybe they've figured out Brett Favre's numbers on the bootlegs, which have been pretty good this year, and watered the middle of the field. It doesn't look like he can stand up anywhere. He slipped not once but twice and went down looking for the standing 8 count at the end of that one. And this is the way the Carolina Panthers have a chance. They're going to have to play great defense, and they've really been doing that the last couple of weeks.
Second down and 18 off the sack. Chester Taylor is in the backfield. Clark sends him out into the pattern, and then he goes to Kleinsasser, who makes his second catch, and Kleinsasser for the gain of 8. John Fox is in his 8th season with Carolina. Came in and helped resurrect the franchise. They had a 1-15 year in George Seifert's last year, and then Fox took him to the Super Bowl. The one thing John hasn't been able to do, though, is put 2 winning seasons back to back. It's been lose, win throughout his 8-year tenure. Last year, a big winning season, and this year they have to win their final 3 games just to get to 500. 3rd and 10. And it's a high snap and a whistle before the snap. And a false start. Phil Lodehold, and he has his hands full tonight against
false
Julius
start.
Peppers.
Number 74 of the offense. 5-yard penalty still. 3rd down.
He was moving, and so was Bryant McKinney. Both.
Yeah, pretty easy to see here. Julius Peppers looks like he thinks the easier spot is over here on this side against Phil Lodehold, the rookie, and so they're flipping him that way, and Lodehold got a little anxious when he saw Julius outside and looking hungry.
He called McKinney's number, but it was Lodehold, the rookie. 3rd down and 15. Peterson and Taylor both in the backfield, and then Favre juggles that snap and recovers, and then throws, and falling down on that grass again is Adrian Peterson.
Well, I tell you what, sometimes the greatest advantage you can have in a game is if the field's a little messed up, and so far we've seen the Minnesota Vikings really struggling, just trying to make the simplest of plays. Brett slipping on the bootleg, and now Adrian Peterson out in the flat, unable to keep his feet. They might have to go back for some longer cleats.
Or skates.
Or skates.
Chris Kluwe, Captain Munnerlyn, is going to let it go, and it will bound out of bounds just inside the 30-yard line. 6:58 remaining, opening quarter, no score. The unrelated Williamses, Pat and Kevin, they've each been to the last 3 Pro Bowls together. Kevin has been to the last 4, and they're the first pair of D-line teammates to do that, or at least since Mark Gastineau and Flecko did it back in the 80s. And there they are.
Good luck.
It's right. D'Angelo Williams, who's part of, as we say, double trouble. He and Jonathan Stewart, the 2-headed rushing tandem, and they flip it to him, and Allen's going to chase him down, chase him out of bounds. And we talked last night to Pat Williams, and I said, well, so how do you think the Williams wall is going to do against double trouble? And he said, they're in trouble.
They're in big trouble. You know, he's very complimentary of his friend Kevin Williams, and he said he thinks he's the best 3-technique tackle there is in the game. And he said, well, what about you? He said, I'm just a big, nasty nose tackle. And that's, you know, it's unbelievable that that's how you describe yourself in the most glowing terms, but that's exactly who he is.
2nd down and 7 from the 32. Look out from the blind side, and it's going to be ruled a fumble. And the Minnesota Vikings try to come up with the ball. Rolling across it was Jared Allen, and the ball is now recovered at the 11-yard line after the sack fumble.
It has to be a blown protection here. There's no way in the world Jeff King is supposed to block him one-on-one. He was supposed to get some help, I've got to believe, from Travell Wharton, who ends up blocking nobody. And Jared Allen, the 2nd best sacker in the NFL. He's good enough when you double team him. He's really good when nobody blocks him.
Well, he creates it, and then he had a chance to recover it, and it slipped out of his grasp, and it gets recovered back at the 11-yard line by Carolina. And now the ball is handed off to Jonathan Stewart, and we see his first carry of the night, and he gets shoved out of bounds. There's a flag down. That was a 3rd down and 27.
Holding, number 68, the offense. The penalty will be declined. 4th down.
Kedrick Vincent with the hold. They take the play. Ben Lieber also had a great chance to get that loose ball, so the Vikings had every opportunity to come up with this fumble and couldn't.
That's a drill you do almost every day in training camp and in practice, because it is so key to be able to recover those things. Really, Minnesota completely dominating, but it's still one of those games where Carolina is hanging around. They just have to find some offense.
That was Dante Rosario, the tight end, who recovered for Carolina. Now Baker's kick is fielded at the 41-yard line. And this is Renaud, and Darius has some room down the sideline and finally gets tackled by the punter at the 26-yard line. He stiffed on Baker, but Baker's stuck with him and knocks him down at the 26-yard line. So far, we'll have a very short field to work with.
So many times that first move is the key move. You've got to do something laterally and then get that thing up the field. It's amazing when you're returning punts that if you can just find a little bit of a seam, watch this one quick little move and then straight up the field. A lot of punt returners like to keep going sideways. Like what Renaud did there, just got that thing up the field.
So far making his 283rd consecutive regular season start tonight. Begins this drive at the 25-yard line. Fake toss, and then he hands the ball off to AP, and Peterson to the 21-yard line.
You know, it's interesting. Adrian Peterson's one of those guys that's been having such a magical year, and those guys over on defense, not too bad either, but clearly one of the most dominant players in the National Football League, but lately hasn't been so good here. Just 3.2 yards per rush in the last 4 games. Of course, we saw him a couple of weeks ago against Arizona and was held to, I think, 19 yards rushing in that ball game. So we're trying to reestablish him now as that top threat.
On the season, his average is 4.5. And he gets tackled just about at the line of scrimmage by James Anderson. We saw Favre slipping before, and a couple of guys on the Vikings slipping, so Brett went to the bench, put on new shoes.
Yeah, sometimes those molded cleats aren't quite as good, and you have to go to those longer ones. I always dreaded doing that a little bit, sometimes because the traction became so good you sort of had to worry about twisting knees and ankles then.
3rd and 6. And just a 3-man rush. 8 back, and they got his arm, and it's Julius Peppers coming around the corner. Been playing with a broken hand lately. Got by Loadhold and breaks up the play, setting up 4th down and a field goal attempt for Longwell.
What's amazing about this is Julius Peppers is getting pressure in just a 3-man pass rush. That was just coverage that time by Carolina, but Julius Peppers has come to play, just came up and just caught his elbow as it was going forward. So a great defensive stand there for Carolina.
Ryan Longwell having another great season. This is a 39-yard attempt. Snap is low, but they get it down, and the kick is no good. Had trouble with the snap and the hold, and it's still 0-0. That's man bite dog. Ryan Longwell missing since 2006, very rarely. I thought it was a low snap. Actually, as you look at it again, that was really not the issue here. The issue is that Longwell hits the upright. So the snap and hold were good enough. 39-yard attempt off the upright, back to the 29-yard line. Now Carolina will take over there, and busting through over the left side. This is Jonathan Stewart, the 2nd-year back out of Oregon, who is their #1 pick last season.
Really nice job there by Ryan Khalil up front against Pat Williams, the center, one of the few remaining guys. I'm not going to circle the center. You can figure out who that is. And Khalil is just going to get just enough of them. And they really have to start establishing something on 1st down. I mean, let's face it, the Carolina Panthers passing game has been pretty bad this entire season. If they don't get this running game going, they have no chance to win here, so stay with it.
You don't talk down to the audience. That's what I love about you. First down, and Stewart again takes it up to the 41-yard line. He's tackled there by Jasper Brinkley, who's the rookie middle linebacker. That's the first down for them. Brinkley, a rookie out of South Carolina.
He'll stay on the center one more time. That's the block you have to be able to make on that nose tackle when he's offset to the side that you're trying to run. You have to snap it, quickly jump out in front if the play is going to have any chance at all. Good start for Khalil.
2:44 to go in the opening quarter.
Oh boy, I did it again.
Yes, you did.
I'm telling you.
Mr. Kibosh.
The king. You don't see this very often, but if I praise a guy once, he has a chance of making a bad play. If I praise him twice in a row, it's guaranteed. How many times in your lifetime have you ever seen the center snap that early? This is such a makeshift offensive line right now. Terrell Wharton used to be the guards playing tackle. Jeff Schwartz in his first start at the other tackle. They're doing the best they can.
Second down and 12. Moore has time, and over the middle, and he finds Smith at the 46-yard line of the Vikings for a first down, covered by Winfield. By far their top receiver. A 15-yard reception for Steve Smith.
And here's what happens. You get a couple runs going, and then you get the ball out to your best receiver, Steve Smith, against Antoine Winfield. We'll watch that matchup all night long. And the protection was good, but I think that again, once you establish the ability to run at least a little bit, it sets that play action up, which is what Carolina has to have.
50-second catch for him. D'Angelo Williams gets tackled after he crosses the line of scrimmage. It'll be second down and 9.
We talked a little bit about all the changes in the offensive line for John Fox and company, but Carolina Panthers, for my money, may have the best tackle tandem in the National Football League in Jordan Gross and Jeff Otaw, and both those guys now on injured reserve. So they've had to do some shifting, and Jeff Schwartz making his first start at right tackle against a pretty good team.
Part of the reason they're averaging 9 points per game less than last year. And now you've got D'Angelo Williams again taking the ball to the 41-yard line, and Williams tonight has carried the ball 6 times for 12 yards, and he comes limping off the field.
Yeah, that was a sort of a low undercut hit that time on D'Angelo Williams. He thought he saw the cutback lane, and I think it was Antoine Winfield who came across the formation, and watch as he cuts back. Winfield is going to hit him right around the knees as Pat Williams went on top, and that's a problem.
3rd and 5. They get the rookie Sutton flanking Moore in the backfield. Vikings blitz, and over the middle, a pass is caught by Muhsin Mohammed to the 28-yard line. Mohammed started his career here, went to Chicago for a few years, then comes back, and that's a gain of 13 as the first quarter comes to an end. End of 1 in Charlotte. Minnesota nothing. Carolina nothing. And Sunday Night Football continues after these messages. You saw Williams come limping off. He had an ankle issue 2 weeks ago and missed the game against Tampa Bay. Now he gets hurt tonight. Jonathan Stewart is the back as we begin the second quarter. And he goes nowhere, running right into the Williams wall and Jared Allen. And it'll be second down.
You know, the formula for this Carolina offense when they played well, remember they were 12-4 last year, a playoff team, and played well. But this year the passing game just has not been there. And you can sort of look at some of the numbers for Steve Smith. Last season, 8 100-yard games. This year, just 1. And a lot of the interceptions have come trying to force the ball deep to Steve Smith.
2nd and 12. And that pass is caught along the far sideline by Steve Smith, a little bit shy of the first down. Going back to Steve Smith. There it is over a 4-year period. He was averaging about 600-yard receiving games per season. Steve in his 9th year out of Utah, 3rd round pick in 01. The other question too, versus, Musa Muhammad would be the number 2 receiver, but, who is right now? He still is, I guess, but there's really no depth behind Smith.
Well, they just don't have that secondary threat right now. They don't.
3rd and 4, and here is Smith again. And he picks up the first down. He's tackled by Antoine Winfield. They also have Dwayne Jarrett. They invested a high draft choice in him out of USC a couple of years ago, but he hasn't done it. He's inactive tonight.
Well, they want to play man coverage now on the outside on Steve Smith coming across in motion. But as they do, they just sort of take those outside receivers and run them up the field and create just enough space there to pick up the first down. This is a pretty nice drive here by Carolina.
Yeah, this is the 11th play of this drive. 57 yards in the first 10 plays. And it's handed off to the fullback. Right up the middle goes Brad Hoover in his 10th year out of Western Carolina. The fullback was kind of an endangered species for a while, but he's been here for a long time. And the question always is a running back better with a fullback or without a fullback? And most of the guys who've come through here in Carolina agree that Hoover's been pretty good.
Yeah, and D'Angelo Williams came from an offense in college where he was sort of the single back and got used to that. And then he said, I didn't want a fullback when I got here, but I've since been convinced.
2nd and 9 over the middle. The pass is caught by Jeff King, who takes it to the 6-yard line. And now it's going to be a 3rd down and 2.
Well, you'll see Jasper Brinkley, the middle linebacker, try and get down the hole on this one. He's going to go straight back, and Jeff King said, fine, you want to go back there? I'll take that one right there. Get out of the way, umpire. Here we go. If you're going to throw it that quickly, you don't have to worry quite as much about Jared Allen either.
3rd and 2 now, and Moore will take this snap out of the shotgun. Smith comes in motion to the inside, and then an inside handoff to the rookie Tyrell Sutton, and he will pick up a first down.
Nice job by Kedrick Vinson that time, picking up the stunt. Looked like they were going to stunt right into this one. Vincent right here is going to make this block and just stay with his guy. There's Kevin Williams. He just kept driving him out of the hole. So that time Minnesota tried to get fancy up front and ran right past the play.
65! Sutton, only his 11th carry of the year. Doesn't play very much, of course, when he's behind double trouble. And now the ball is handed off to Jonathan Stewart, who gets to the 1-yard line. It will be 2nd down and goal on a drive that began back at the 29-yard line and has consumed 7.5 minutes.
Well, but don't assume this one's a touchdown, because the Minnesota Vikings in goal-to-go situations, the very best in the NFL. When you've got the Williams Wall and Fred Evans and all those other guys in there, 65, this is no cinch.
15th play of the drive. Stewart behind Hoover in the backfield. The fake, and then the pass, and wide open is Hoover for the touchdown. The Panthers have the ball for 8 minutes, 1 second, and go 71 yards against the Viking D.
Jasper Brinkley, I think, is going to have to come up here and not just play the run, but play the fullback as well. You know exactly who that assignment is when you're putting together your game plan. You say, that young guy doesn't have a lot of experience. Let's see if we can take advantage.
John Casey for the extra point, and that one is blocked. So we've had a missed field goal and a missed extra point. Hoover with his first touchdown of the season, and the Panthers lead 6-0. From the 36-yard line. This drive starts with Adrian Peterson probing the middle. Brett Favre at the age of 40, it's been a spectacular year for him. However, going back over the past few years, there are his numbers early in his career over the first 13 years, and they were great in December and January. Then you go to 05 through 09, 11-9, and December passing, well, last year with that biceps problem in New York, bad numbers. Here, okay so far. And he hits Sidney Rice, first catch he has made tonight up at the 45-yard line. So the big question, obviously, Chris, as you go down the stretch is, will Favre be able to play it all out? And, could you have a better ending to a career? Not that he would necessarily end it, but he told us last night if they win the Super Bowl, it might make his decision easier. But he didn't say what his decision would be.
Yeah, I think we all know what that was, though. I think he's out of here if they happen to win a Super Bowl this year, probably along with a few other guys.
3rd and 1. And Peterson will get stuffed here. One other thing about Favre, Chris, is that, when you look at Brett and his career, and he was the poster boy for everything the NFL was all about, and announcers and broadcasters were always salivating over him. And then the public got tired of, am I going to come back? Am I going to retire? Will I be back? Will I, whatever. And then this year, it kind of became like a national joke until he signed. It's no joke anymore. If anything, he's burnished the legacy, not tarnished it.
Yeah, he really has. He's had a tremendous year, but as what happened when we saw him against Arizona, not so good tonight so far.
Captain Munnerlyn brings it back to the 15-yard line. Any flag is down. Brett tonight 4 of his first 5, but for only 28 yards.
Well, it's interesting that they really haven't been able to establish the run.
During the kick, illegal block in the back, number 31 of the receiving team, half the distance to the goal, 1st down, timeout.
And 9:02 to go in the half. 6-0 Carolina. Very, very important figure in the annals of the National Football League. Jerry Richardson, who was a good player, played with the Colts, played in that overtime championship game in '58, and is not only the owner of this team, but the founder. He brought this team into the National Football League as an expansion franchise in '95. And on 1st down, this is Jonathan Stewart, who's able to break tackles and takes it out to the 10-yard line. But one other thing on Jerry Richardson, Chris, is the fact that here's a man who had a heart transplant last year, but it's good to see him at the game and in pretty good health right now, and a guy who, as we just said, a man who had the dream of getting this team into the National Football League and was able to accomplish it.
Yeah, and as a former player, he's got his game face on, doesn't he? He's out there. He looks like he's ready to play. He was a good one, though.
2nd down and 3. Rolling out is Moore, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Steve Smith. Let's check in with Andrea.
Well, they taped D'Angelo Williams' left ankle out here. He tried to test it, but they've taken him into the locker room to retape it. Now, I'm told by the Panthers they are not x-raying it right now, but Al, it is the same ankle that kept him out of the Tampa game, and they are calling his return questionable.
And D'Angelo, of course, would be a big minus for a team that has to rely on the running game, but did pull off a 15-play drive for a touchdown. The only touchdown of the game the last time they had the ball. 3rd down and 3. And rolling to his right, that pass is incomplete. Again intended for Steve Smith. So after that long 8-minute drive, this one takes 50 seconds, and they'll punt from deep in their own territory.
Yeah, and he missed twice. I mean, Matt Moore 2 times in a row had somebody that looked like they were open out there. Steve Smith, not easy throws, but you can see what they're doing now. They're taking Matt Moore and rolling him away from Jared Allen. That's how much of an impact Jared Allen's having. They're actually rolling away from him.
This is Baker's 4th punt before that happens.
I'll tell you what, if that's against the defense.
Yeah, it's 4th and 3.
Start.
Nope.
Number 55, the offense. After this is the 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
Dan Connor.
It's one of those plays that might have been worth a shot to flinch a little bit and see if the official misses it. Maybe go for the cheap 1st down. 55 over on the right-hand side of your screen. I tell you, there was some defensive movement that led to that flinch.
Yep. Could have gone the other way. And that punt is fielded by Renaud, and he'll set up the Vikings at the Carolina 40, halfway through the 2nd.
The NFL stars are out and shining bright. It's the Vikings and Panthers, an NFC fight. Sunday Night Football is now.
Well, the Minnesota Vikings trying to get to Miami, but first things first. They're in Charlotte tonight. They're down 6-0. They have a short field here, and on first down, it's Taylor who gets tackled by Gamble. And the Minnesota Vikings tonight, 15 plays and a total of 22 yards.
Right off the edge right here, Chris Gamble's going to come around and make this play. Carolina Panthers, what the heck? They're 5-8. They're going to come out and fire a few shots tonight. They played well against the New England Patriots a week ago. They held them to 20 points in their own place. They've been getting turnovers the last 3 games. They've got some confidence going.
Peterson. And he takes it to the 35-yard line. Damian Lewis makes the tackle. Let's go back to the punt. The false start ruled against Carolina, but it could have gone the other way here.
All right over here, Dan Connor. See if he gets drawn off sides. Typically, if you flinch and get into the neutral zone and it forces the offensive player to move, you get the 5-yard penalty on the offensive side, and that would have been a first down.
3rd and 4. Favre staying in the pocket, and then the pass is caught by Chester Taylor, and that will be a first down. So they convert on a 3rd and 4, and the ball is at the Carolina 28-yard line.
Well, I think the Minnesota Vikings had seen enough of Julius Peppers, so you put your tight end over here to this side, Visante Shanko, to help out Lodeholt. And now Brett Favre has time and finds Chester Taylor out of the backfield for the first down.
Peterson. And Peterson around the corner. And a decent gain there. Captain Munnerlyn covering on the play. 6 minutes to go now, and that's a gain of 9 yards, 2nd and 1.
Watch Sidney Rice right out here come down and get the block on the inside. This looks like it's going nowhere because Chris Harris was coming down, but Sidney Rice met him right at the line of scrimmage. And Chester Taylor saw that, or Adrian Peterson, and bounced it outside. Nice play by Rice. He's having a great year.
And Favre throws over the middle, and that is caught by Sidney Rice, and he gets tackled at the 3-yard line. Richard Marshall, for the moment, saving the touchdown.
Damian Lewis that time thought he had a deflected pass. Brett Favre recocks this thing and ends up finding Sidney Rice in the second hole. The slant hole is usually the first one over there. Brett saw Damian Lewis in his face, pulled it back down, and then found Rice for the big play.
Rice to the right, Durian wide left, and Harvin is in the slot to the left. From the 4 on 1st and goal. And Peterson, and he'll get stood up at the 1-yard line, but stays on his feet and goes in for the touchdown. Chris Harris had him dead to rights at the 1, and he sprung away and spins into the end zone.
You think Adrian Peterson's fast? He may be stronger. Check out Chris Harris here. He's having a pretty tough time. He's got Adrian Peterson dead to rights, come up with a second safety, and neither one of them can get him on the ground. Wow.
Now, to give them the lead, Longwell for the extra point, and he does. That's the 15th rushing touchdown this season for Peterson, tying it with Maurice Jones-Drew for most touchdowns on the ground this year. 7-6 Vikings. Vikings have the lead for the first time in the game with 5 minutes to go in half. 16-yard line, and that's fielded by Jeff King. Puts it back to the 25. You know, Medea Williams is the kind of guy that, you know, you don't hear a lot about him, the safety from Minnesota, but he just donated $2 million to the University of Maryland, his alma mater, to establish a Center for Global Health Initiatives, focusing on the county in which he grew up outside of D.C. and the West African nation of Sierra Leone, where he was born. So, you know, at a time when you're always hearing about guys stealing $2 million, I mean, that would make headlines. It's nice to see a guy giving away $2 million, and we salute him.
We really do, in memory of his mom, and he is well remembered now.
Play fake, Moore throws on first down. Smith will turn it back to the outside, and that's a nice gain, 13 yards. And let's go down to Andrea.
Well, yeah, and Alec, he didn't want any credit for it, but he told me you can't put a price tag on improving people's lives. And to that end, the goal of the center is to address health issues such as the high infant mortality rate, but he's doing more than just giving money. He's involved in planning the center, which is due to open in 2011, and his foundation also started an elementary school in Africa named after his late mother. Al, he said it's a lifetime commitment by him.
Beautiful. Good man. Came to this country when he was 9 years old. Originally with the Bengals, now the Vikings safety, and he's involved in this play along with Jasper Brinkley. Stewart carrying.
Well, one of the things that Jasper Brinkley can do well, that is come downhill and play the run. They really felt like that for number 54, that was the strength of his game, and they liked the fact that the last two games seemed to fit him just perfectly, playing against Cincinnati in their running game and now Carolina in this running game. They say it's not fair. Don't compare him to E.J. Henderson. E.J. Henderson's a great player, but this guy can certainly play the run.
2nd and 12. And Stewart to the outside, and that's Winfield coming up to make the tackle. You know, one of the greatest things about Jasper Brinkley, of course, is he has a twin brother.
Oh, yeah.
Casper.
Yes, sir.
Jasper and Casper.
Jasper and
In fact, Casper was in the Carolina camp for a while, but didn't make the team.
But everybody remembered him, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Don't forget Casper or Jasper.
3rd and 12 from the 40-yard line. Sutton comes into the backfield again. Williams out of the game, so probably see a little bit more of the rookie tonight. They're going to throw a screen to him, and some nice moves there, and he spins his way and picks up a first down. Tyrell Sutton, a free agent out of Northwestern, and had 2 catches last week and makes his presence felt on this drive.
One of the things you do to great pass rushers, throw screens in behind them. Why not? They're thinking sack. They're thinking adding to their total. And give a guy like, here's Jared Allen coming right off the edge. A good pass rush, but Wharton didn't care. He just kind of let him back inside.
2.5 to play in the half. And Moore goes underneath. Smith. He gets tackled. That's Allen is involved in pass coverage at the 43-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and 5, and Matt Moore will let the clock run down to 2 minutes. Panthers, as we look ahead with all of their timeouts remaining. 2-minute warning. Minnesota 7, Carolina 6. Second down and 6 here with 2 minutes now as Moore goes back to Bass, and he hits King, and Jeff King will fumble the ball but out of bounds after he picks up the first down. Jasper Brinkley made the tackle and knocked the ball loose.
I tell you, one of the things that Matt Moore is doing a really nice job on right now is the place he's called the quiet spot in the pocket. When you end up, you're playing the best pass rushing team in the National Football League in the Minnesota Vikings. And here's a guy that is just beginning to slide around a little bit back there, find a spot, buy a little time, and he's been making some plays.
Off the fake again, taking a shot deep downfield and incomplete. Coverage is good that time, intended for Smith. And he's covered by Antoine Winfield. That's star on star.
Antoine Winfield, but I tell you, they have now decided they're coming after Matt Moore. They brought the blitz that time. Good job by Jonathan Stewart to pick it up. And they're lucky to not get that one picked off. You have to give Steve Smith a chance. Get it out in front of him. It's not a very good throw.
Minute and a half to play in the first half. And they'll run the draw here. And Stewart won't go anywhere. Tackled at the 37-yard line. And it will be 3rd down and 10.
A little bit surprised here. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Minnesota Vikings considered calling a timeout here. You don't want to let the Carolina Panthers run the ball. Again, they need probably, what do you figure out, about 4 yards to set up a 50-yard field goal here. The more time it runs off, the easier it makes them to do that.
Call it 3rd down and 9. It's about right. 3rd and 9 out of the shotgun. And Moore flushed out to his left. And he'll throw. And the pass is caught at the 29-yard line by Steve Smith. So they don't get enough for the first down, but they do get enough to bring Casey out onto the field to attempt a field goal.
And if you're a Carolina Panther fan or John Fox, you have to feel like that Matt Moore has given you just about everything you could have hoped for against this pass rush and against this football team coming in here. He's moving around. He hasn't taken the sacks back there. He's been elusive and made some big plays.
And Carolina, well, they're content, obviously, to let the clock run all the way down. Minnesota could have called the timeout. And I do find it to be a little bit surprising, of course, that they didn't. And they leave themselves no time.
Right.
Timeout called here. John Casey had his extra point attempt blocked before, but now he'll try to give Carolina the lead again. A 47-yard attempt with 4 seconds to play. Jason Baker will hold it, and a flag is thrown. Several, in fact. Vikings think it was a false start. Morelli will, after a consultation.
False start.
It is.
65, the offense. 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
That is really big. I think that's Gary Williams, number 65, the right tackle with a false start here. And now it's so big, in fact, that they're taking Casey off the field.
Wow. You're going to go Hail Mary instead of a 52-yard field goal?
52 or 53-yard field goal. I don't know. Well, Fox is going to run this one play and let Moore air it out, and he sends it down. There are 3 Panthers there and 3 Vikings there, and it gets knocked down at the goal line. Kind of a crazy end of the first half. Vikings don't take any timeouts. False start, no field goal attempt, and it winds up 7-6 Minnesota at the half. And with that, you've seen the scoring in the first half as we start the 3rd quarter in Charlotte. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Andrea Kramer. And just to set the significance of this one again, the Minnesota Vikings have already won the NFC North by virtue of Green Bay's loss earlier today to Pittsburgh, but still with a shot at the #1 seed in the NFC. Right now, New Orleans owning that spot as this bouncing ball is fielded at the 35-yard line and brought back to the 41 by Kennedy. And we go back to how the half ended after a false start negates this kick by Casey. They elect to go for a Hail Mary, so that kick would have been good.
Well, look at this, though. How far did this thing clear by? I mean, that's got to be 5 yards. The only thing I can think of is maybe you go back to the blocked extra point, watch this thing shoot out to Antoine Winfield, and he's thinking, well, I don't want to give up a touchdown. But you've seen your kicker just kick it about 56 or 7 yards. I don't know why you don't give him a shot there.
Casey kicked a 50-yarder on opening day, and they set up a screen and pressure on Favre that time. The coverage by Beeson on Taylor, 2nd down, and we go to Andrea.
Well, Al, Brad Chidros walked out of the locker room. I didn't even say a word, and he said to me, we didn't have to show up at practice at all this week to gain 66 yards of offense. This is embarrassing. He said, there's no magic here. We just have to play. He said, we've got to change the line of scrimmage. As for D'Angelo Williams, they said they're going to try to warm him up on the sideline, get him back despite that left ankle injury.
Thank you, Andrew. Those 66 yards, the fewest by the Vikings in any first half this season. 2nd down and 10 from the 41. And Favre slings it to the left side, and that's caught at the 45 by Bernard Berrien, who finally sees some action, and he gets tackled immediately by Richard Marshall.
Well,
Berrien's first catch.
I love watching veteran quarterbacks play. That time Julius Peppers shifts down inside here. Brett sees it, goes to the audible, knows it's a blitz, going to throw it right underneath. Easy completion. Sets up a 3rd and short.
3rd down and 5 from the 46-yard line. Good protection, really good, but good coverage in the secondary, and then the pass is incomplete at the 23-yard line. Visante Shanko, the tight end, going all the way down the field, and Dante Wesley covering 4th down.
Well, the protection was absolutely perfect. You end up in a 2-man coverage, man-to-man underneath everywhere, and Brett Favre couldn't find anywhere to go. He wanted to come over here to the left side, a little arrow route. When that was taken away, he really didn't have anything. So Carolina's defense continues to make plays.
Chris Cluey's punt. Backing Munnerlin all the way up.
I thought he was going to catch it.
Yes, my captain says, touchback. 7-6 Minnesota. A little bit more about Matt Moore, born in Southern California and grew up as a UCLA fan, who winds up at UCLA, spot starter for 2 years. He was also drafted by the Angels in 04, didn't sign, spent a year out of football, and then re-enrolled at Oregon State, where he played for 2 seasons, not drafted. Went to the Dallas camp, and Carolina claimed him off waivers before the start of the 07 season. And tonight, he's 12 out of 18 for 98 yards. And sets up the screen here. Stewart makes the catch. Flag is thrown. And Stewart takes it out to the 33-yard line. But a flag is all the way back at the 6. And it could be for roughing the passer.
Roughing the passer. Number 93. 15-yard penalty. 1st down.
Kevin Williams got in there as he threw the screen pass and cost him 15.
Well, remember now, defensive tackles or defensive players are not allowed to go low on the quarterback from the knee down, and Kevin Williams was stumbling, and you could see him just eventually lunging into the quarterback's knees, and that is what they are trying to prevent. They want to keep these quarterbacks healthy, and that's a 15-yarder and a big one.
Here comes the Wildcat now at the 47-yard line. Jonathan Stewart is going to take the snap in the Wildcat from the 47, and Stewart. Amoeba-like run, as you might say, Chris.
Not a lot of form to that one there.
Nope, all over the joint.
Well, you know, the Wildcats kind of ended in Miami, and people are picking it up around the rest of the league and trying to just put on a little something different there. And Jonathan Stewart, though, you know, I mean, this is no slouch. You've got D'Angelo Williams out of the game right now, but Jonathan Stewart drafted in the 1st round, and as far as backup running backs, he has the most yards in the league.
2nd down and 5. Play fake, buys time, and then over the middle of the pass, hauled in at the 33-yard line by Muhsin Muhammad for a 1st down.
Just a simple zone defense, and anytime you end up running the football and ended up in those 2nd and 5 situations, you could see the linebackers jumping up, trying to play the run, and Muhsin Muhammad has found some holes over the middle. And for the Minnesota Vikings, they have to be wondering what the heck, you know, the Saints lose, they're going to end up with a chance to have the top seed, and they're playing like this again.
Meanwhile, Carolina takes a early 3rd quarter timeout. Brett Favre, Matt Moore. Matt calls Brett a living legend. Well, why not? There's Brett in '92, first season with the Packers. And how did Matt Moore look in '92 at the age of 8? That play is stuffed. Steve Smith coming around on an end around, and Ray Edwards said, "Oh no, we've diagnosed this play before."
Looked better than Ray Edwards looked to Steve Smith coming around there. if you're going to run a reverse, a lot of times you like to block this guy out here on the end of the line of scrimmage. Or sort of things like that happen. Wow.
2nd and 16. And Moore going deep and incomplete. And everybody wants a flag. All 70,000 calling for it. There is none. Ben Lieber, the linebacker, going all the way down the field with the coverage on the tight end, Jeff King.
Ben Lieber hesitates at the line of scrimmage right here, looking in the backfield, and King has it wide open, and that was close. Did he strip the arm before the ball got there? You can make an argument. Not sure the ball was catchable if he was going to get there anyway, and maybe that's what the officials called.
That would have been a heck of a catch, but they didn't give the signal that it was uncatchable, so they just didn't throw the flag. 3rd and 16. And the pass to the outside is incomplete and well short. And it's Medea Williams going over to cover Steve Smith, and it's 4th and 16.
Well, that's one of the problems that you end up with when you have a backup quarterback in the game. Those timing throws like that back shoulder stop route here. It's something that Jake Delhomme and Steve Smith have practiced a bunch, but you don't get much time as a backup quarterback with the starters. Those are hard to hit.
Baker's 5th punt of the night. He's averaged 43 yards per boot. Nose down, back spin, but it bounces forward from the 5-yard line into the end zone. 7-6 Minnesota. Now Minnesota up by a point from the 20-yard line on 1st down, and Favre throws, and that's caught by Rice, and Rice with a big gain, a gain of 25 out to the 45-yard line for a kid from South Carolina, from Gaffney. 25-yard gain with a lot of folks looking on tonight in the stands.
Well, Sidney Rice, when he sees the safety dropping out there, Chris Harris, he just goes in the void. And I tell you, for Sidney Rice, the former basketball player, he has really turned into something this year. Brett Favre keeps telling him how good he is, and I think he's starting to believe it.
Had a cold this week. Give us some practice time. It's an 8-yard gain to Shanko over the middle, talking about Rice playing basketball. Gaffney, South Carolina, just about a half an hour from Charlotte, right on the Carolina border. North Carolina, South Carolina, and some pretty good moves by one Mr. Rice. And he uses them in football.
Same thing, isn't it? Just going up and getting the rebound. Except you don't have to get your feet down in basketball, I guess. That was the play that he said Brett Favre, as soon as it was over, that one against St. Louis, came sprinting down the field, picked him up, and said, I told you they can't cover you. I told you. They has really built that guy up from the very beginning. You know, he hasn't had a great career. He had some injuries he had to deal with. But I tell you what, since Brett Favre got here, he said, I've never had a guy I can just throw the ball up in the air like that to, like a Larry Fitzgerald, and watch him make plays.
Well, remember we were in Arizona a couple of weeks ago in Minnesota, and Favre said, you know, he's like Charles Barkley. I know he'll go up and get the rebound for me.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing, though, he was telling us last night, he said, when I heard that Brett Favre was coming in and he was coming to the compound and all the news helicopters were overhead, he said, I started getting nervous just thinking about the idea that Brett Favre was going to be my quarterback. Still feels that way sometimes when he's in the huddle.
Yeah, he said he looked at Favre. He said, I can't believe I'm in the huddle with Brett Favre.
Brett was telling us that so many people asking for his jersey going off the field. He said, it's only halftime. You mind if we wait till after the game?
2nd and 2 from the 47-yard line. Flag down. And the ball is down as well. And it's Beeson covering Peterson.
Illegal formation. Offense. Only 6 men on the line of scrimmage. 5-yard penalty still. 2nd down.
Looked like they were trying to run a little pick on John Beeson there, coming down inside, screen him off. But Beeson said, I'm not going to put up with that. I know what you're trying to do. Comes out there and Gives Adrian Peterson a little parting shot.
Penalty makes it 2nd down and 7 from the 48. And Favre underneath and checks it down, and then Peterson started to turn around, and he drops it. It'll be 3rd down and 7, and Julius Peppers forced the issue, getting in Favre's face.
Oh, Julius Peppers now back on the left side against Bryant McKinney. And Julius Peppers, when he decides he wants to play some football, he can certainly get it done. The one thing I will give him some credit for, the Carolina Panthers blitz about as little as any team in the NFL. So for him to have 8.5 sacks, that's pretty good considering the fact that usually he's getting double teamed.
3rd down and 7. And Favre has to pull it in, and now he's going to try to left-hand it, but they whistled him in the grasp. Dante Wesley will get credit for the sack.
He did everything but pull the pin on that hand grenade when he threw it out of there. Just a 3-man rush again, and here's Captain Munnerlyn on the outside working against Bernard Berrien and knocks him out of bounds. So Brett had no one to go there. Percy Harvin down the middle of the field. We haven't said his name very much at all. Sidney Rice on the top against Chris Gamble. But once again, Brett Favre pressured by just 3.
And now Kluwe with a bomb into the night air, and Munnerlyn's going to let that one bound into the end zone. Carolina will begin a drive from the 20. 9:54 left in the 3rd. 7-6 Minnesota. Now Moore starts this drive with a handoff to Stewart again. Williams hurt early on. And Williams with 6 attempts, 13 yards, but on the bench, and Stewart 11 for 33. You know, he started the night by talking about the Vikings and the importance of this game in the sense that they've already won the North, so they're going to the playoffs. The question is, what seed will they be? If they win tonight, they're a game back in New Orleans, and then somehow along the way, if New Orleans loses a game and Minnesota winds up with the same record, Minnesota would win the tiebreaker with New Orleans. And here's Stewart again. But conversely, if they lose this game and Philadelphia is a game behind and Philadelphia catches them, which could happen, Philadelphia would own the tiebreaker over Minnesota. So Minnesota right now, pretty solid 2, could be 1, but could also be 3, which is gigantic because 3 means you're playing in a wild card game.
Yeah, but you know, Al, I think the bigger story is what we've been seeing out of the Minnesota Vikings in 2 of the last 3 weeks. You know, teams have to get hot and start playing their best football coming down the stretch. And certainly with Brett Favre's history of issues and the way this offense is playing, it has to be a bit of a concern.
3rd and 4, pass to the outside, and that's underthrown and incomplete, intended for Brad Hoover, and it'll be 4th down and 4. Maybe they just don't like playing on Sunday night.
I guess this has really been unimpressive so far. I mean, you've got Brett Favre, who's playing absolutely the best football of his career. Not even close when you look at some of the numbers. 27 touchdown passes, just 6 interceptions, and he's fishing for answers in those pictures over there. Maybe this guy right here will be the answer.
Baker ready to punt. And Renaud is back to receive it. Darius Renaud from the 30-yard line. Bunched up at the 36 with 8:24 remaining in the 3rd quarter, and the Vikings leading the Panthers by 1. And a Merry Christmas to all of you from our entire crew at NBC Sports. And we'll go back to work next Sunday. Dallas taking on Washington. Right now, Minnesota nursing a 1-point lead. 8:24 to go in the 3rd. From the 36-yard line, this drive begins with a Peterson run through the middle. So, you know, you hear about stretching and all the things that the modern-day athlete does. Well, here's Brett Favre, and this is Brett Favre's pregame stretching routine at the age of 40.
You know, as you get older, you have to stretch a little more, right? You know, try and stay loose. And, you know, so it's probably, what, figure 20, 25 minutes worth of stretching?
That's it. Over. You think he knows what Pilates is?
Richard Simmons, he ain't.
Thank God. Here's Favre throwing it to the 40. No double meaning there. Little shovel pass to Shanko. That's a first down.
Well, they finally get Brett Favre moving around here a little bit since he's all stretched out now. And this is one of the things that he has done best in his career. And he says, if I have a complaint with Darrell Bevell, our offensive coordinator, is that he doesn't get me out there enough. I like buying time. He feels like he can still is as nimble as he always was. He's just not as fast.
Quick count. They give the ball to Peterson, and he takes it to the midfield stripe. Speaking of bootlegs, take a look at this. That's a pass where the quarterback moves in the opposite direction of the play fake. So everybody going left, he goes right. And take a look at this. When Brett does this, the rating is almost perfect. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Well, it really adds a lot of pressure to the defense because now instead of defending for 3.5 seconds, sometimes you're defending for 5 or 6 seconds, and it creates some opportunities.
2nd and 8. Great protection. And then the pass is caught, and finally, but a flag is thrown, so we'll see if it holds up. Percy
I don't
Harvin.
think so. Brian McKinney.
Holding, number 74. 10-yard penalty still, 2nd down.
So that's Brian McKinney. So we haven't talked about Harvin. That would have been his first catch of the night.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that Julius Peppers is flexible after McKinney got hold of his neck. A little limbo coming in there. That one's pretty easy. And they really haven't gotten Percy Harvin too involved in this game either. He came in, he missed last week with the migraines, and I thought this offense looked completely different without him involved last week. And sometimes you just need to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers and let them do something.
Doesn't look very good tonight either because he hasn't been a factor. 2nd down and 18 from the 40. Favre throws over the middle, and that is Rice, and he loses the ball as he gets tackled at the 36-yard line, and the Panthers have it. Charles Godfrey, the safety, whacked him after he made the catch, and then the recovery is by the other safety, Chris Harris.
Well, just one of those middle reads right down the middle of the field, and the thing that you have to do as a safety is make him pay. And Charles Godfrey, who had a couple of big hits last week, makes what may be a game changer here. I thought Sidney Rice had the ball. See if he has possession. Couple of steps. I think that is a completion and a fumble. Good call by the officials.
No doubt. First fumble of Rice's young career. Harris had a forced fumble last week and has a fumble recovery here. And now Stewart will cut it back and go to the outside and work his way around Williams and pick up a first down with some good, tough running into Minnesota territory to the 47.
And so many times you see a defensive play that gets this crowd into the ball game, and now it's Stewart who's going to get the opportunity, cuts all the way back. And Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator for the Vikings, was telling us last night, he said, this guy makes me nervous. He breaks a lot of tackles. We have to really fly to the football to get him on the ground.
17-yard gain for him, and here he goes again, and he gets bumped in the backfield and then picks up a yard, maybe 2. Pat Williams in on the tackle. They'll spot the ball just inside the 45-yard line.
Yeah, and Jasper Brinkley understands exactly what Leslie Frazier was talking about. The young linebacker just had an easy shot here at Jonathan Stewart. You'll watch him right here come in. Looks like I got him, I got him, I got him. I don't got him.
You know what? Brinkley has just limped off the field.
Oh, that's some news there. They're already without E.J. Henderson.
Then Lieber moves over to the middle. He's the guy who wears the speaker in the helmet, and Moore throws underneath into a lot of traffic to Jeff King. 3rd time he has called King's number tonight. So here is Lieber normally playing on the outside, but with Brinkley playing in the middle. Normally the middle linebacker will wear the helmet speaker, but the rookie doesn't get it. And right now he's just trying to maybe work through some cramps on the sideline.
Well, Lieber should be able to handle the calls in there because really Brinkley struggled a little bit, and it was Lieber and Greenway that had to sort of take over that role. So at least from making the call standpoint, not a problem.
3rd and 6. Blitz coming. Pass gets away, and it's incomplete. and Moore goes down. The crowd wanted a flag for roughing the passer. Don't get it. Intended for Kenneth Moore. It'll be 4th down.
Couldn't tell if there was some contact down the field that time or not. Yeah, it looked like Antoine Winfield kind of let him run by. But for Matt Moore, you know, he just occasionally will sail balls. You know, we saw it last week against New England. We've seen it this week in this ball game, that in the NFL you have to hit those opportunities.
Baker's 7th punt of the game. Fair caught at the 10-yard line by Darius Renaud. Charlotte, NC. Home of the Panthers, home of Larry Brown's Bobcats. Panthers scored 6 points in the 3rd quarter over the last 8 games.
But you know, they had opportunities. Why they didn't take the field goal at the end of the first half, I'll never understand that one. And then on the next drive, they took it right down the field, and they ran that reverse and knocked them out of field goal range there, had to punt, had another opportunity there, so they just haven't done enough on offense to win the football game.
Tonight, 137 to this point in the game. Overall, 6th in yardage in the league. Quick toss out to Berrien, and a very good tackle made by Richard Marshall at 14-yard line after a gain of about 3.
It's easy to talk about Brett Favre in the passing game, but the storyline again here tonight is Adrian Peterson averaging 3 yards a carry. This is a team, and this is a running game before Brett Favre got here, that you would have said if you had this kind of a passing attack, they're going to be unstoppable. And yet the running game now over the past 3-4 ball games has been almost non-existent.
And here's Chester Taylor in the game. Taylor with 2 carries tonight for 6 yards. Off the fake. And then Taylor cannot make the catch. It is incomplete. James Anderson playing a nice game tonight. The outside linebacker with the coverage. It'll be 3rd down and 7.
Well, you've got to be able to block Julius Peppers to have a chance, and Peppers right in the face of Brett Favre. They're going to make you sort of catch it and 1-2 on the ground. Usually those bang-bang calls, they're going to call those incomplete, but Peppers is just wearing out Bryant McKinney. He got Phil Lodeholt in the first half.
Peppers tells the crowd, I want to hear you. They comply. 3rd and 7. And Favre, and he will get ridden down by Julius Peppers. Well, a lot's made about the fact he's making $1 million a game.
Pay him $2 million a game if he's going to play like this. I tell you what, just a flat-out bull rush. Going to take Bryant McKinney and cram him right back into Brett Favre. Sometimes you get set for those speed pass rushers on the outside. You expect to move. They cram you right down the middle and throw you into the quarterback.
And Kluwe's kick. Munnerlyn from the 44. And Munnerlyn takes it back to the 47-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. 2:23 to go in the 3rd quarter. Earlier we talked about John Fox. In fact, he's had some really good years here. But the longest tenured head coaches without back-to-back winning seasons. Well, Bart Starr was in Green Bay for 9 years, and then Sam Weich coaching Chris Collinsworth. That was part of the issue. Cincinnati. And then John Fox, you know, losing record, winning, losing, winning. 500, losing, and then a big year last year, and this year they'll have to win every game on the way out to finish at 500. On 1st down, Moore escapes the first rush and then turns it into a nice little gain. It was Heath Farwell who had a clear shot at him and couldn't knock him down, and Moore is able to escape out of the pocket and turn it into a 1-yard gain instead of about a 6-yard sack.
Well, Matt Moore with not his first Houdini move here tonight. He comes on the bootleg, and I tell you, Ray Edwards was right there along with Heath Farwell. And for Matt Moore, that sometimes a 1-yard gain's a great play. That took the place of about a 10-yard loss.
2nd and 9. Stewart will cut it back, and Stewart with tough running takes the ball to the 38-yard line, and that will be a first down.
Oh, that was just a fantastic run. Great job by Kedrick Benson getting out in front on this one from the guard position and getting a key block. But check out the way that Jonathan Stewart finishes his runs. He is a load. Mediu Williams just got plastered on the tail end of this one. Wow.
So Williams on the bench. Workload belongs to Stewart. He gets it again over the right side again, and this time it gets plugged up. After a minimal gain, Greenway and Edwards are there.
Yeah, you hit it right on there, Al. Ray Edwards is really playing a good game against the runs. Talking to Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator, they were really concerned. Could they hold up against the run if he couldn't play right over here? But he has really done a nice job against Jeff King, standing him up and making the play. Leslie Frazier understood full well what this Carolina running game entailed.
2nd and 9. Swing it out. Caught by Dante Rosario. And the tight end picks up a first down.
Pretty nice play call that time by Jeff Davidson, motioning the tight end Dante Rosario in the backfield so that he could get the little rub, the little pick play on the outside. Rosario's having his best year, going to motion him here and then get him out and just do a little rub on the outside to give him just enough room there. Pick up the first down. Now they are in field goal range.
Tyrell Sutton is the back. Fake to him. And Moore throwing into the end zone and adjusting for it and making the catch is Smith for the touchdown with a flag down back at the 35-yard line. It's coming back.
Offense. 10-yard penalty, still first down.
Boy, Kevin Williams has been getting so close all night. You just wondered when he was finally going to get there. And that time he did, and Kedrick Benson had no choice but to hold on this one right here. Watch the hold. Kevin Williams with a great move, and then Vincent grabs him late. So once again, the Carolina Panthers make a big play, and it comes back.
I've seen more flagrant holds than that. So Morelli throws the flag. That negates what would be the go-ahead score. 1st and 20 from the 37-yard line.
Look out.
And that's Antoine Winfield coming in on the corner blitz for the sack. And that will take us to the end of the quarter.
And out of field goal range.
No, out of field goal range. Neither team scoring in the 3rd quarter. Minnesota 7, Carolina 6. And Sunday Night Football from Charlotte resumes after these messages from your NBC station. Start the 4th quarter with a 2nd down and 26 at the 42-yard line for the Panthers, who had a 1st and 10 at the 26-yard line. But then a 10-yard holding penalty and a 6-yard sack. And now it's 2nd down and 26.
Well, we already know what John Fox considers the range for John Casey. It is not 52 yards. We figured that much out. So they probably need at least 10, 12 yards here to have another legitimate shot.
Moore. And then throws low, and the coverage was very good. He got it out to Jonathan Stewart.
But did you see who was on the
Pat
coverage?
Williams, you bet. Yep.
There you go. Now we're going to take another look here at Kedrick Benson, the right guard, in this holding call. Let you make the call. I think when he got that right hand out and sort of you see those shoulders turn like that, you're going to get that call on the tail end of it. Of course, if there had been pass interference, they would have offset. We looked at it a couple of times. I didn't think it was pass interference when I looked at it.
And the hold was iffy. 3rd and 26. And Moore down the field, and Smith is able to make the catch for a touchdown. Steve Smith never taking his eyes off it. Winfield had good coverage at first, and then Smith goes by him at the end to give Carolina the lead, 42 yards.
Antoine Winfield with inside man-to-man coverage with underneath help from Mediu Williams. All he has to do is play the deep ball here, and he just got turned around and lost his feet. He thinks Steve Smith dragged him to the ground. I didn't see it. He was jumping up and down at the end of the play, claiming he was interfered with. What a throw by Matt Moore.
And they're going for two to try to make it a 7-point game. That was a 3rd and 26.
And everybody in the house thought they were going to go for field goal position there, about 12 yards.
On the 2-point attempt, Smith comes in motion. They fake it to him on a slot around. And then Moore throws, and the pass is incomplete. He had Kenneth Moore in the back of the end zone and threw it behind him. But they get the touchdown to take a 12-7 lead early in the 4th. Phillips Center, Charlotte, North Carolina. On this 20th night of December. Steve Smith on a 3rd and 26. 49th career touchdown reception. Smith this season was 6 touchdown receptions. Had one last week on a pass from Moore against New England. And then the kick is a bouncing ball that will stay in at the 5-yard line. And Harvin can only bring it back to the 14. So a great break that time. Reese Lloyd is their kickoff guy and had a little bit of a fade on it.
Yeah. Boy, how about Steve Smith? We showed you the shot of the guy with the steam coming off his head. That pertained to Steve Smith, too. He's yelling at everybody. He wants the football in his hands in between the 3rd and the 4th quarter. He's yelling at Minnesota. He's yelling at his bench. He's yelling at his coach. And sometimes if you lobby enough, they finally throw you a ball. I should have tried that more. Should have yelled at Sam White.
You didn't have the same vocabulary. Ball is at the 15-yard line, 1st down. And to the outside, going nowhere, is Adrian Peterson. And Peterson tonight, as he was 2 weeks ago on Sunday night against Arizona, bottled up, 12 carries, 35 yards. That's less than 3 yards per tote.
You know, and especially when you consider this Carolina team has been through so many defensive tackles. Ake Kemuatu hurt early, 3 others brought in, all of them injured, all on IR, and they were playing like this against a team like the Vikings.
Second and 9. And that's caught. Nice catch is made by Bernard Berrien, and he gets clotheslined by Captain Munnerlyn, but not until he picks up a 1st down.
You know what, Al? This is just amazing to watch Brett Favre work sometimes. He saw the linebacker drop underneath this slant. Instead of throwing it in the 1st hole, he waits and throws it in the 2nd hole. James Anderson's been playing football his whole life. Everybody throws a slant in the 1st hole. And he was expecting it, and Brett made him pay it in the secondary hole.
From the 33-yard line. Going for Harvin, and he can't make the catch, but a flag comes in from the secondary. 2, in fact. One close to the line of scrimmage and the other in the secondary.
Well, he tried to hit that quick screen.
Offensive pass interference, number 87. 10-yard penalty, still 1st down.
That time the ad-lib burned Brett Favre, because on this play you cannot hold the ball because Berrien thinks you're going to flip the thing right out to Percy Harvin, so he's going in to block against Richard Marshall. Well, when you hold the ball and throw it down the field, that block turns into pass interference.
First and 20. Carolina with 4 sacks tonight. And Favre to the 30-yard line. That's Visante Shanko. That'll put him in a position for a 2nd down and 12 up at the 31-yard line.
You don't think there's anybody in New Orleans cheering for the Carolina Panthers tonight, do you? I don't think they could clinch it tonight, but they certainly are going to be in a position where I think they play Tampa Bay next week, where they could clinch it then should the Minnesota Vikings, I'm talking about home field advantage throughout the playoffs, if the Vikings lose here at Carolina.
And Carolina meets New Orleans the final Sunday of the season. And Favre for that pump fake and then goes downfield and incomplete. 2 receivers and 3 defenders are there. Berrien was down there. That's Captain Munnell in on the coverage. And rookie, low draft choice, saying the other day, he said, you know what? If I can intercept the Brett Favre pass, I got to go up to him and have him autograph the ball.
Yeah, and he was a big fan from the beginning. He had his jersey and couldn't believe he was going to get a chance to play against Brett Favre. Well, the captain and his teammates are wearing Brett out tonight.
That's his real name, captain named after his great-grandfather. His given name was Captain, great-great-grandfather. 3rd down and 12, and Favre avoids a sack, gets away the first time, and then with everybody around his body throws incomplete upfield for Shanko at the 50-yard line. Julius Peppers came in, and he beat Artis Hicks is in there at the moment in place of McKinney and came around to spoil it. 4th down.
Unbelievable. Watch Peppers on this one beat the double team. Comes in, has Brett dead to rights. Brett pulls an Eli Manning, gets out of there, makes a perfect throw. And Shanko dropped it.
Shanko couldn't pull a David Tyree. Louis' kick is a short kick. Takes a small Carolina hop backwards, and a flag is down at the 40-yard line.
During the kick, holding number 57 of the receiving team. 10-yard penalty. Timeout.
And assessed at the end of the kick. 12:18 to go in the 4th.
Runway 26 right, 26 right, clear for landing.
Stewart on 1st down, and Stewart off to the races with a big game before he's forced out of bounds by Tyrell Johnson. And it's a gain of 23 yards.
Well, Ben Lieber's got to maintain position out here. He's got to contain this to the outside. When he sinks down inside, Stewart sees it and bounces out around the edge. They've had to shuffle so many linebackers. Lieber with a big mistake there. Steve Smith working down the field against Cedric Griffin. Adds about 5 or 6 yards to that run.
Ball at the 46-yard line. And deep downfield, incomplete coverage is very good. Intended for Gary Barnage. First time they've called his number tonight. And in the Minnesota linebacking group, Brinkley, who got an IV on the sideline, is back in the game in the middle.
Here's Brinkley right here. He's going to have to do something that he's probably not so comfortable doing, though this time does a nice job. That Mike Backer has to run with anything that goes down the middle anytime they split the safeties. And that's the part of the game they weren't sure he'd be able to do as well. But that was pretty good.
Tyrell Sutton is the eye back here. And the rookie gets tripped up as he crosses the 50-yard line. He's stopped there by Mitchell. And that will be a gain of 6 yards, 3rd and 4.
I tell you, I have a lot of respect for Tyrell Sutton. I really do. This young man was forced into earlier this season against the New Orleans Saints playing the fullback position. And for a tailback to go into fullback, you go, oh boy, this is not going to be very good. He blocked his tail off that game. He was knocking people around, and now in this one, he's finally getting a chance to run the ball and doing a good job.
It's a 5'8", 213-pound fullback at that time. Far more suited with those dimensions to playing tailback position. 3rd down and 4. And that's caught and running away from the coverage is Steve Smith. And Steve Smith wiggles his way all the way down to the 3-yard line. 45 yards.
Well, once again, Ben Lieber a little late getting underneath this route. He's got the flat, and he just missed it. Matt Moore snuck that ball in there. It's not the cornerback's responsibility. The linebacker has to get out. He didn't get there and just missed. The game of inches, about a foot there. Steve Smith is on tonight, though.
Knew where the camera was, too, at the end of the play.
Yes, he did.
Somebody's got a heck of a shot. And that's no gain for Jonathan Stewart as he gets tackled by Brinkley. Minnesota with 11 wins this season, but in only one of those 11 have they trailed by 5 or more and won the game. That was early in the season against Detroit. And right now they're down by 5 and in peril of going down by 8 or more.
I tell you talked about this being a trap game earlier on, but I tell you, in my mind, this is no fluke. This is a whipping. The Vikings 1 for 9 on 3rd down. This Carolina defense playing great, and so is their offense.
2nd and goal. Stewart. And Stewart breaking tackles into the end zone.
Jasper Brinkley had him.
Kept those feet moving. We talked about the yardage this guy gains after initial contact, and evidence right here.
He's got him. Makes the play. Gets off the block. Perfect hit. And Stewart getting an opportunity tonight has played huge. He's been physical. He's made dynamic plays, and he's been the difference.
Casey for the extra point. And they lead by a dozen. Carolina 19, Minnesota 7. So Brett Favre, no stranger to fourth quarter comebacks, will have to effect one here for Minnesota to win the game. And Lloyd, like his team, all pumped up, bangs one into the end zone for a touchback. Steve Smith and the Panthers trying to pull off the upset. Julius Peppers, big night. Carolina defense having a big night. Minnesota down by 12 from the 20 on 1st down for Favre. And he's able to thread it to Harvin into double coverage. Marshall is there along with Godfrey, and Minnesota's going to come up to the line. No huddle, 1st down.
I think they're trying to wake themselves up out of this funk that they're in. I tell you, they have absolutely had their running game stuffed tonight. And Brett Favre in this passing game is not the same when it's not play action.
2.9 yards per rush for the Vikings. And over the middle, they get it to Peterson, Adrian, up to the 35-yard line. Still no huddle.
Brett was telling us he thought that this would be a year he just turned around and handed the ball off and threw it about 15, 20 times a game. It hasn't worked out that way. Too many times the running game's failed, and Brett's had to pick it up.
Tonight he'll have to win it with his arm. It's 2nd down and 5. And that pass is incomplete. Harvin wants a flag. Marshall covering on the play. It'll be 3rd and 5.
And Brett Favre wants somebody to block Julius Peppers every single time now. Now Artis Hicks in the ball game, doing the best that he can, which isn't any better than what McKinney was doing. Julius Peppers is just taking over the football game. And Brett's seen enough.
3rd and 5. This time he gets protection. And that pass is incomplete. Chris Harris, the coverage and the deflection. Will be 4th down.
Well, I tell you what, it's a good thing that Percy Harvin was able to get up a little bit, because that ball was sailing for a good 4 or 5 seconds. Brett very lucky that one wasn't picked.
Kluwe to kick again. Munnerlyn is taken down at the 21-yard line. And the Carolina Panthers can start to think about chewing up some clock time with 8:08 remaining in the fourth quarter. Big night for Julius and a big night for the Panthers. Vikings allowing 100 or more rushing yards in each of the last 3 games. First time they've allowed that many in 3 straight since 05, and that's Stewart. So that's against Arizona, Cincinnati, and now here tonight. That's what they're going to have to do right here is stop the run, as the Panthers will try to chew up some clock time.
Yeah, Jonathan Stewart with 87 yards rushing tonight. It has been 36 consecutive games the Vikings have not allowed a 100-yard rusher, but Stewart certainly with a chance. But Al, I tell you, this defense looks different to me without E.J. Henderson in there, and that was my big question. This is a team that has been built around running the ball and stopping the run, and they have done neither tonight.
Halfway through the fourth quarter. Take the play clock to 4. And then this is Stewart, and he gets to the 21-yard line.
Well, you can't blame them. Your defense is playing so well. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings essentially just daring you to throw the football. Everybody up around the line of scrimmage. Is going to be almost impossible to run the ball at this point, but you've got this kind of a lead against the Vikings in your home field, and really with what your team's doing defensively, why not let them have a chance and not take any chances yourself?
2-possession game. Pretty important stop here for the Minnesota defense. Otherwise, a first down.
No doubt.
Yeah, another couple of minutes off the clock. Run it out of time. Moore. And he finds Smith. Skirts the sideline. Inbounds, makes the catch. Minnesota tries to plead the case that he was on the chalk. They won't win that. 16 yards and a key third down conversion.
Well, again, moving the pocket to buy some time. Antoine Winfield had given up the touchdown. They go out and up. He slips down like we've seen. And Steve Smith with a monster ball game.
And that's 9 catches for 157 yards. And there will be a challenge here. You saw the Vikings sideline. One of the assistants contending that he stepped out of bounds. Coach's challenge. We don't see anything that would overturn this call. We think it's going to stand. Smith had his foot very close to being out of bounds. We think it's inbounds, number 1. And secondly, is there enough there to overturn it? The call on the field was he was inbounds. We don't see it.
I thought as he turned to pivot off of that foot, you could pretty clearly see that. Anyway, it looked like to me it was inbounds, and he's trying to plead his case to Jared Allen, who
I think he's telling Jared the other way. Yeah, telling Jared, hey, you're going to be staying on the field because I'm inbounds.
Jared Allen's been a little quiet tonight. You know, the Carolina Panthers have done a nice job on him.
Well, that's a new look at it from our aerial coverage. I tell you, that's the closest, but I still don't see enough to overturn it. Of course, if any part of the foot is on the sideline, he'd be out of bounds, but you still don't see it even from that, which is the best of the angles.
Well, you know, we've got to, here we go.
Morelli.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field will stand. Receiver was inbounds. First down, Carolina. Minnesota will be charged a timeout and a challenge.
And that's the double whammy there. You lose the challenge, you lose a timeout. You're down by 12, and you've already used a timeout in the half, so you're down to 1.
What did Steve Smith tell us the other day? He's tired of being the #1 receiver. He wants him to bring in somebody to take some pressure off of him. He'll just play in the slot. Got news for you. He's going to be the #1 receiver for a while.
Right, maybe somebody to come in as 1A, but he's #1 from the 37. And now Stewart will take the ball up to the 40-yard line.
You know, so much of this team is really built around the ability to stop the run so that they can rush the passer. You know, this is the leading team in the National Football League as far as getting sacks on the quarterback. But in this one, because they've had to play the run so much and bring safeties down, they've been vulnerable in pass defense in situations they typically have not been. And for Jared Allen, the opportunities to go get the quarterback just haven't been there.
They have 2 sacks tonight. Meanwhile, Moore has 242 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's pressured, and he throws, and the pass is caught, and breaking 2 tackles, and on his way to the end zone and tackled at the 5-yard line is Gary Barnidge. Only the second pass thrown to him tonight. The 6'5", 247-pound, third-string tight end, 55 yards.
Watch Barnidge, watch the adjustment he makes on the football here. Completely covered. I think that's Antoine Winfield out there, could not be in a better position, and he just swims late over the top of Winfield, uses that big body, and refuses to go to the ground, and in many ways not scoring the touchdown was the much better alternative.
Smith blocks Brinkley, and then Griffin goes for about a 6-furlong ride. To the 2.5 goes Jonathan Stewart. And the total yardage in this game is now Carolina 383 and Minnesota 174.
Wow. Remember, this was a team coming in that was averaging about 11 points a game over the last 4 games. This was an offense that was struggling in a major way, but being at practice on Friday, you could see there was no quitting the team. It was freezing cold. It was awful. I couldn't wait to go inside, but those guys were flying around and playing hard, and for the second time in 3 weeks, the Vikings don't show up.
Second down and goal. Stewart takes 3 Vikings to knock him down. And also, Chris, when you think about it, I mean, this is a team minus their 2 starting tackles, including Jordan Gross, one of the best in the league, minus their starting quarterback, Jake Delhomme. D'Angelo Williams got hurt early tonight, 6 carries, 13 yards, and they are handing it to the Vikings.
Yeah, you really hit on a key point, too. Travell Wharton, what a job he's done. Yes, he has had help on Jared Allen, but Jeff Schwartz, the rookie, making his first start at the other tackle position. I don't think we've mentioned him all night long. He's done a nice job of pass protection as well. Give him credit. Makeshift line, but they've gotten it done.
Third down and goal. And Moore throwing, and it's a touchdown. It's caught by Jonathan Stewart at the goal line. And the Carolina Panthers have scored 3 touchdowns on their last 3 possessions.
Well, you always get the picks down here. Dante Rosario is going to just rub off on Ben Lieber, gets just enough of him on the right-hand side to open up his running back there, Jonathan Stewart. And I tell you, for Matt Moore, this has been a dream scenario. He knows he may not get many chances to impress, but impress he has tonight.
Casey for the point after. And the magnitude of this is really stunning. There's the Barning catch and run. Carolina 26, Minnesota 7. So we started the night talking about maybe Minnesota getting the #1 seed if they won out and New Orleans stumbled. Now you're in a position here with Minnesota on its way to a loss where New Orleans completely solidifies the chance to become #1. Minnesota would have to win both and New Orleans lose both not to be #1. But now Minnesota's going to get Philadelphia breathing down their neck for a possible bye when the playoffs begin. And this is Harvin. And again, what would have to happen, just looking ahead for Minnesota, they have the Monday nighter in Chicago next week. Then they have the Giants at home. Philadelphia has Denver in Philly next week. Then they go to Dallas for a huge game, which could determine the NFC East. But if Philly can win out and Minnesota loses tonight and loses one more game, Philadelphia would wind up as the 2nd seed.
You know, the Dallas Cowboys' December swoon may not be the story this week. It may be Brett Favre's December swoon. Remember at the end of last year what happened to them. And so now, for the 2nd time in the month of December, we're seeing Brett Favre's offense not getting it done.
Meanwhile, there's Peterson staying inbounds, and Peterson trying to continue to give life to the Viking hopes all the way to the 17. And Favre says, let's get down the field. No huddle, let's go. 63 yards on that play.
Little screen pass to the outside, and it looked like Steve Hutchinson was a couple of yards down the field at least, and ends up with the key block. But where's this been?
From the 16 on 1st down. And Brett. And that's picked off in the end zone by Chris Harris. And again, Julius Peppers getting into the face of Favre on the release.
Well, no surprise. Julius Peppers, this time on Artis Hicks. They benched Bryant McKinney. Apparently, I don't think that there's any injury involved. And Julius Peppers, as he's done all night with the pressure on Favre, just a poor decision. Brett trying to make a play, lobs one up for the corner, but there was nothing there. Chris Harris was all over it. Sometimes Brett can lock onto a receiver, and there's Visante Shanko running down the middle of that defense, which was really where the hole was.
Favre throwing only his 2nd red zone pick of the season. It comes with 2.5 minutes remaining. And the Minnesota Vikings right now with only 1 timeout and the 2-minute warning and down by 19. And this is Stewart. And Stewart up to the 35-yard line, a 15-yard gain, and that's 109 yards on the ground tonight, and that's something you rarely see. A back gaining 100 yards on the ground against the Vikings.
Watch him make Chad Greenway miss on this one. He is just right in the middle of the hole. There's Greenway, and there he goes, and he's been doing it all night long. This is the first 100-yard rusher against this Minnesota Vikings defense now in 36 games, and appropriately Jonathan Stewart. What a great game he's had.
2-minute warning.
Tell you what, John Fox has to be proud of his guys.
Yeah.
This was, you know, there's a lot on the line, and we all know the rumors out there and coaches that might be available, but the Stars tonight got it done. Check out Matt Moore's numbers. Completely outplayed Brett Favre and everybody else in this ball game. Stewart, tremendous against one of the top run defenses, or at least in the past. Don't know now without E.J. Henderson. Do they still fill that bill?
Yep. You know, the Minnesota Vikings, a team that almost never allows 100 yards to a ball carrier. Last time they allowed 100 yards to an individual, it was Ryan Grant of Green Bay back in November of '07. So long ago that Favre was handing the ball off to Grant.
I'll tell you what, I am no longer looking at schedules and making predictions. You looked at some of the schedules this weekend and you go, oh boy, that's a win for this team, that's a win for them, and it just doesn't matter. The NFL, anything could happen in any ball game, but we know that Brett Favre prefers to not see Julius Peppers anytime soon.
Well, go subscribe to some of those services, they'll tell you, right?
Yeah. Or watch Showtime.
It's like taking stock picks off television.
Oh, boy.
Short it. That's the end of the game. And what a night for the Carolina Panthers. Pretty stunning, especially the magnitude of this one.
Well, you know, after the Arizona loss, you were thinking, okay, well, they lost the one. They probably needed the loss. It woke them up. I don't know. This doesn't look like a wake-up call to me.
Whew. And the New Orleans Saints breathe a little sigh of relief. Philadelphia goes, got Minnesota in our sights. 2 weeks to go.